Doping in sports. Doping started in the 1920s, so it started way back. Doping is an illegal substance, and it's especially sportsmen who are using doping, and they're using doping because they would like to improve their performances. It could, for example, be cyclists who would like to be able to follow their competitors on LDS. It could be athletes who would like to run faster, jump higher, or throw longer. Or it could be professional football players who is under this enormous physical pressure. It is to play more than 4,500 minutes of football every season. So the temptation of using doping to improve your performances is too big for these athletes. There is 5 classes of doping. The most common is the one that stimulates your hormones, and you can say doping helps you produce more red blood cells than you would under normal circumstances. You could train your body to produce a certain amount of red blood cells, but with doping you can help it produce a lot more red blood cells. And if you got more red blood cells, you can perform better, and that's why people are doing this, to produce these red blood cells and perform better so they could run faster, throw longer, the things they need to be very good at. And it's illegal to use doping because it's very unfair and it's very bad sportsmanship. If you got 2 athletes and one is on doping and the other one is clean, and the one on doping is much better because he's using an illegal substance, it's not fair for a sports. And the people who are trying to prevent doping in sports are these anti-doping organizations. And we got one in Denmark called Anti-Doping Denmark, and they would take cases up with, for example, Danish cyclists who use doping through times, for example, Bjarne Riis and Rolf Sørensen. And for these anti-doping organizations, it's very hard to find these doping tracks the users sometimes leave behind, because the doping users try to cover their tracks, and therefore it's very difficult sometimes for the anti-doping organizations to find these tracks. And the thing they are trying to find these tracks with is they are discovered by a urine test, and from this test they can measure the mass spectrometry, and this involves firing a beam of electrons that urine samples to ionize them, turning the atoms into charged particles by adding or removing electrons. And after this procedure, the doping will show very clear if there are any sign of doping, and it's almost like a fingerprint, so there's no doubt if you first found doping, it's very clear that it's doping, and you can track it from body to body and kind of measure this doping in your body. And doping is a very big issue now because the sports are developing and the sports keeps improves, so the athletes must improve as well. They they need to be better, faster, stronger in everything they're doing. And for many athletes, the temptation is too big. The doping is very easily to get from these experts, doping experts, who call themselves doctors. And well, I think the idea of being a better athlete than your competitor is for some people too high. The temptation is too high, so they're taking this dope to keep improving their performances without thinking about the consequences. The consequences can, for example, be HIV, diabetes, and I think and much more. So the consequences are very high, but the sportsman has only one goal in their head, and that is to improve. But if you like to live a long and healthy life, doping is not the way to do that. And one of the most famous doping cases in newer time is Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France 7 years in a row, and Tour de France is the world's biggest and toughest cycling race. And Lance Armstrong was the king of Tour de France when he was on his top, and he admitted doping use of doping in 2013. He admitted it. He admitted that he's been using doping from the mid 90s to 2005, and it when Lance Armstrong admitted this use of doping in 2013, the whole world was in shock, because a great sportsman like Lance Armstrong, who also fight cancer and won over cancer, using doping was something they hadn't expected. So because it was Lance Armstrong using doping, the world was in shock. But if you take, for example, cycling, it's more and more common that the cyclists are using doping to follow their competitors, because the physical pressure your body is under during, for example, a race like Tour de France, where you cycle 200 kilometers each day in 21 days, it's almost not human, and it's very unreal to cycle that many kilometers per day and on the toughest mountains in the world. So when the sports improves and demanding some very unreal things from the riders feel the temptation, and kind of use doping to follow their competitors. And actually the doping developed very much in the 1960s because of the Cold War. The Cold War was one of the reasons why doping became popular, because during the Cold War, the United States and Soviet, they were the great superpowers in that time, and they were fighting each other in everything. Also, in the Olympic Games, so they used doping in their athletes, because when for example, a Soviet 100-meter runner won a great run, the whole nation looked better. So if an athlete won in the Olympic Games, the whole country would look better. So therefore, spend these countries many resources on trying to develop doping during the 60s, and that's one of the reasons why doping is so popular today. And well, in the future, will doping will in the future doping will never disappear. Doping will always be there. But anti-doping organizations will try to do their best to prevent doping, and they're doing a huge effort right now trying to prevent doping, and they catch very much of these doping users, but many doping users are also never caught. And well, it can never be removed, but they will try to prevent doping as much as they can and minimize the use of doping. And well, you can say the experts are getting better and better at their job, and the doctors, those doping doctors, are getting better and better at that job. And well, for example, the cyclists are getting better and better trying to hide their doping tracks in their body, and will try to prevent the experts in finding these tracks. So everyone is getting better at that job, so it's very difficult for each part to for the anti-doping organizations. It's very difficult to find doping today, but they're doing their job very well, and without them the doping would play a bigger part of sports than it is today. So we need the anti-doping organizations, but it's a very tough battle to win, and to minimize the doping is the best we can do right now.